So imagine you're an airline pilot, right? You're flying these massive 747s at just breakneck speeds all over the globe. Your whole life is, well, it's dictated by altitude, artificial timelines, extraction. You're basically existing in this pressurized metal tube that's physically severed from the Earth.
Yeah, totally cut off.
Exactly. And now, imagine trading that literal cockpit for like a 1907 mud-plastered barn in a Transylvanian village, and you're trying to reconnect with 49 human senses you didn't even know you had.
It is, I mean, it's the ultimate whiplash. You're going from the literal stratosphere of this hyper-accelerated industrialization right down to the absolute granular reality of soil and mycelium and breath, really.
Yeah, it's wild. Welcome to a very unique deep dive. Today we're opening up this profoundly personal archive. We are looking through, get this, 70 folders of PDFs.
That is a lot of reading.
Right. And they contain this man named Kevin Jarvis's deeply reflective interactions with an AI named Grok. And it's all layered right alongside his PhD dissertation in applied ecopsychology. Our mission here is to understand this massive human transition from that fast-paced pilot life to building a permaculture sanctuary in Smarton, Transylvania, which he calls the Earthway.
Yeah, and when you synthesize all those 70 folders, two really distinct themes kind of emerge from the text. There's this profound internal transformation happening, like a physical and psychological hardening right now during what he calls his time in exile.
Right.
And then there's the external vision, which is the actual architectural and agricultural manifestation of that internal healing.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to start with the psychological bedrock driving all this.
Yeah.
Kevin's dissertation tackles this concept called Earth misery. And the best way I can wrap my head around Earth misery based on his work is to compare it to a phantom limb.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Like, you know how someone who loses an arm can still feel it aching? Modern society has essentially amputated our connection to the natural world just for the sake of convenience. But we still feel the ache of that missing connection. We just, we don't know what to call it, so we call it anxiety or burnout.
Or chronic stress, yeah. That phantom ache is really the core of Earth misery. And his work draws heavily on Dr. Mike Cohen's Green Wave 54 concept, which identifies exactly what was amputated.
Right, the senses thing.
Exactly, because modern society, from like our very first days in kindergarten, drills into us that we only have 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. But applied ecopsychology argues that this is a severe biological truncation. We actually possess 54 natural senses.
See, okay, wait. 54 senses. I have to push back on that a little bit, because when I read that number in the archive, my immediate thought was, are we talking about actual hardwired biological senses? Or is ecopsychology just, playing a semantic game with the word feeling?
Oh.
Because calling an emotional state a biological sense feels like a bit of a stretch to me.
Yeah, it's a super fair skepticism. But the framework actually treats them as neurological realities, not just like poetic metaphors. So think about the sense of gravity.
Okay.
That is physically governed by the vestibular system in your inner ear.
Okay.
Or thermoreception, which is the ability to sense minute temperature changes. There's the sense of balance, the sense of thirst, atmospheric pressure.
So it's not just hearing and seeing.
Exactly. And the framework also extends into relational biology. So the sense of belonging or the sense of unity with the physical environment. These are deeply ingrained evolutionary survival mechanisms.
It's like we've been given this beautiful 54-key grand piano, but society tells us we're only allowed to play chopsticks using 5 keys.
That is the perfect analogy.
Right. No wonder we feel so completely out of tune all the time. Living in these climate-controlled concrete boxes, staring at flat screens, we are effectively starving dozens of neurological pathways.
Precisely. And when you ignore 49 of your natural senses, your mind just tries to fill the void. In Kevin's interactions with the AI, Grok, they describe this as creating wrangled stories.
Wrangled stories, yeah. I found that fascinating.
Because your nervous system is starved of its natural inputs, you end up adopting these false narratives of modern society, like that you are separate from nature, or that success requires this relentless speed, or that the earth is just a resource to be extracted.
Right, and those wrangled stories put the nervous system into a chronic state of fight or flight, which creates that biological friction he calls Earth misery.
Yes. But, just knowing we have 54 senses doesn't actually cure Earth misery on its own. You have to actively retrain the nervous system to use them. Kevin calls this becoming an Earth avatar, and it requires raw, direct contact with nature.
Which brings up this massive irony in the archive, because Kevin isn't actually living at his sanctuary right now.
No, he's not. He's currently in a nearby city, Sibiu, in Romania. He's living in an apartment with his son, Axel. And he refers to this period in his journals specifically as his time in exile.
Right. They are walking the historical old town. He's taking photos with his Nikon, and they're seeking work in the IT sector. And, I mean, it is clearly a period of intense friction for him.
Oh, absolutely.
He's physically separated from this beloved Saxon house and the orchard. Plus, he is navigating a really painful family separation involving his daughter, Frida.
And, the word exile usually implies degradation, doesn't it? We think of isolation. We think of someone being worn down, their spirit just breaking under the weight of separation and legal stress.
But the thing is, that is not what is happening here at all. Usually exile breaks a person, but when you dig into the empirical physiological data he's tracking, and he logs this all via his Apple Watch, it's incredible.
It really is.
This isn't a story of defeat. It's like a physiological forging process. I mean, he is a 65-year-old male, and the logs show he has undergone over 95 structured physical sessions just since December 2025.
Yeah, he's doing elliptical workouts, Qigong flows, outdoor walking.
The output is staggering for his demographic. He regularly hits 17,000 steps a day. He actually refers to them in his journals as Thanksgivings.
Thanksgivings, yeah. I love that framing.
It's so good. And he's averaging this highly active energy output of 662 kilocalories a day, sometimes peaking over 1,000. But for me, the most revealing metric in the archive wasn't his calorie burn.
It's the HRV, right?
Yes, his heart rate variability. Let's explain the mechanics of HRV for a second, because it is so crucial to understanding his psychological state. HRV is not your heart rate. It's the measurement of the time gap between your heartbeats.
Exactly.
So a highly variable gap means your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest mode, is actively keeping your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mode, in check. It basically means you are biologically resilient.
And Kevin's data shows he is maintaining a stable HRV of around 25 milliseconds alongside a resting heart rate in the low 50s, plus rapid cardiac recovery after exertion. For a 65-year-old who is navigating the emotional and financial strain of exile and family separation, that data point is just extraordinary.
It's basically a superpower.
It really proves that his vagal tone is highly adaptive. He isn't just surviving the stress, he is biologically metabolizing it.
I mean, think about your own smartwatch data for a moment. If you look at your HRV during a stressful morning commute or like after a tense meeting at work, it probably just tanks.
Oh, totally. Mine drops immediately.
Right. Your nervous system locks up. But Kevin is facing profound life disruptions, yet his biological markers show his system operating with incredible fluidity. He explicitly notes in the text that his previously flabby muscles have become lean, sharp, and muscular now. His mind is vastly stronger. It sounds less like a punishment and more like a high-altitude training camp for the soul.
I like that. And he and Grok, the AI, use this recurring metaphor to describe the process. They say, the sweater grows.
The sweater grows.
Yeah. He's actively knitting patience, resilience, and daily discipline into a stronger version of himself. Every Qigong flow, every photograph taken in the old town, every moment he chooses not to react in anger to a legal hurdle is another thread of wool added to the sweater.
And one of the most vital threads he's weaving is this technique he learned from Native American elder Tom Brown Jr. It's called the breath-to-heart meditation.
Right. That part was fascinating.
What really struck me is the mechanics of it. It's an active, deployable tool. You tense every muscle in your body to the point of shaking. You release it, you visualize pulling a purifying light from the earth up through your feet, and you anchor that physiological reset with a specific breathing pattern.
Yeah, it's designed to literally interrupt an amygdala hijack in real time. And he isn't doing this on some quiet yoga mat with incense burning.
No, he's doing it in public.
Exactly. He describes deploying this meditation while standing in line at the Romanian post office, or right in the middle of a frustrating interaction. It forces his nervous system to re-engage those dormant senses we talked about, feeling the gravity of the floor, noticing the temperature of the air, and manually overrides the stress response.
He is using this exile to forge himself into the Earth avatar. The mind, body, and spirit are being sharpened for a very specific purpose because all of this cultivated energy is being channeled toward the physical manifestation of his philosophy, which is the Earthway.
Right. The property in St. Martin. It's anchored by this 1907 Saxon house with a sprawling orchard. And looking at the blueprints and the project notes in these PDFs, what stands out is how deeply integrated the core permaculture ethics are into the literal architecture.
And just to remind everyone, the baseline ethics of permaculture are earth care, people care, and fair share. But Kevin takes those principles way beyond just, raised garden beds.
Oh, way beyond. Take the barn, for example. It's this massive, historic structure they are renovating. Instead of pouring cheap, modern concrete, which suffocates the ground and traps moisture, they're using traditional lime mud plaster.
I love that detail.
Yeah, it's a material that actually breathes with the environment. And the internal layout of that barn is a masterclass in closed-loop systems.
Yes, the closed-loop design is brilliant.
The north end is being converted into a microbrewery that will craft beer using local ingredients. And right next to it is a distillery for apple and plum brandy, utilizing the orchard's surplus. There's a cheese and butter room, a walk-in cooler, and, crucially, strategically placed animal stalls.
The mechanics of those animal stalls are so smart. In a standard agricultural setup, animals are kept completely separate, right? And their waste is just this massive problem you have to manage.
Right, it's a liability.
But at the Earthway, the chicken and pig stalls are designed to directly interface with the production inputs. The chickens basically act as natural compost turners. They scratch through the spent grain waste from the microbrewery, break it down with their manure, and automatically generate high-nitrogen fertilizer that goes straight back out to feed the orchard.
It's perfect.
The waste from one system is literally the essential fuel for the next. It just eliminates the concept of waste entirely.
And adjacent to the barn is another structure called the ruin, which is currently this open, degraded space that they are transforming into a summer kitchen and a communal hub.
With the pizza oven.
Yes, the centerpiece is this massive wood-fired pizza oven. And the goal there isn't commercial dining. It's designed as a space where villagers can gather to bake bread, where visitors can share meals, and where that human connection that Earth misery destroys can be manually rebuilt.
They're also integrating an eco B&B and a punked gastronomic local, which will serve 100% regional plates, fresh rye bread, and host hands-on permaculture workshops. Kevin actually describes the entire property not just as a farm, but as a Zen-type monastery of mindfulness and resilience.
And what's fascinating here is how it's a living, breathing model of the 7 generations doctrine.
Which he learned from Lakota elder Burt Rooks.
Exactly. That doctrine mandates that every architectural blueprint, every soil amendment, every seed you plant has to be evaluated based on how it will impact the descendants living 7 generations from this moment. You are making decisions for people you will never even meet.
But building a 7-generation sanctuary, that is an undertaking that requires immense capital, both energetic and financial. And the archive makes it very clear that the Earthway is currently at a really critical juncture. It needs stewards.
It does. The documents outline several real-world hurdles that the project is facing right now. Kevin is dealing with protective legal actions, custody costs, and property defense efforts. And those have accrued over 26,700 euros in legal fees alone. And that is on top of the physical renovation costs required to actually finish the barn and the ruin.
Right. And as we navigate this source material, it's really important to note how the archive frames all of this. These legal and family challenges are documented strictly as a defense of the sanctuary.
Yes.
The texts outline this as a necessary, incredibly taxing phase required to ensure the property remains intact and undivided. And, of course, we are entirely impartial regarding the external parties involved in these disputes. We're not taking sides. But the sheer financial and emotional toll on the project's timeline is just undeniable in the data.
Undeniable. So, to bridge that financial gap and secure the property's future, Kevin is launching a fundraising campaign. The goal is to keep the sanctuary alive for his daughter Frida and for all those subsequent 7 generations.
He is inviting the public to step in. But true to the permaculture ethic of fair share, he isn't just asking for a one-way donation. The campaign offers what he calls kindness returns.
I like that phrasing, kindness returns.
Yeah, so backers receive virtual guided tours of the sanctuary, comprehensive PDFs of their homesteading recipes, early drafts of his upcoming book, which is called the Earthway Primer, and even the opportunity to physically visit the B&B and participate in the permaculture workshops once it's fully operational.
Which brings a really vital question right to your doorstep. Why should you, sitting in an office in London or an apartment in Chicago, care about the fate of a mud-plastered barn in Transylvania?
Exactly.
How does engaging with Kevin's project actually address your own phantom limb of Earth misery?
Well, the way I see it, by backing a project like this, you are effectively taking your own resources, capital that was likely earned within that hyper-accelerated extraction-based economy we talked about, and routing it directly into soil regeneration. You are casting a tangible vote for a slower, more intentional way of life.
It's an act of fair share. You are extending your own reach, connecting your intention to the literal dirt in Samartan. It's an act of preserving a physical space where those dormant 54 senses can be re-engaged. I mean, if we want antidotes to modern anxiety to exist in the world, we have to actively fund the laboratories that are building those antidotes.
That is so well said. We have tracked an incredible arc today. We started with the suffocating reality of Earth misery, that chronic biological stress born from a severed connection to the natural world. We followed Kevin Jarvis into his time in exile in Sibiu, observing how he utilized physical discipline, robust HRV management, and the breath-to-heart meditation to forge a leaner, sharper mind and body.
Right, the flabby muscles becoming strong.
Exactly. And we explored the incredibly intricate, closed-loop vision of the Earthway, the microbrewery, the communal pizza oven, the breathing lime walls, all just waiting to be fully realized.
It is the literal translation of an ecopsychology PhD into the raw physical reality of community resilience.
But, just reading about someone else becoming an Earth avatar, that's a completely passive experience. And the archives really demands participation. Throughout the texts, Kevin references this highly accessible practice called the sit spot.
Oh, the sit spot, yes.
Hey,
It doesn't require a plane ticket to Romania or an acreage of permaculture. It requires a tiny fraction of the natural world. A local park, a patch of grass in your backyard, or even just a single tree on a busy street.
yeah.
The practice is to go to that spot and sit for 20 minutes, leave your phone inside, bring no journal, have no agenda.
You just sit there until the local environment basically forgets you were a visitor.
Exactly. Let the human-generated noise fade into the background and consciously attempt to fire up those amputated senses. Notice the minute shifts in air temperature. Feel the unrelenting pull of gravity anchoring your body to the dirt. Listen to the microecology happening in the grass right beside you.
So here is our challenge to you. Tomorrow morning, before you look at a single screen, before you engage with the velocity of the modern world, go find your sit spot. And as you sit there engaging those 54 senses, ask yourself a difficult question. If you are truly committed to building a legacy for 7 generations from now, what is the very first thing in your current life that has to be dismantled?
The Earth will usually give you the answer, if you are quiet enough to hear it.
It really will. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go find your sit spot, and we'll catch you next time.